In this episode of Man versus Marriage, we are talking sex, intimacy, and a fantastic challenge coming your way. It is certainly an episode that you do not want to miss. We'll be right back. Welcome back to another episode of Man versus Marriage. It is I, the Q Dog, in the Moran family studio with my lovely wife, Jeannie Moran. Jeannie, say what's up to the people.
What's up?
What's up? Why are you laughing?
Oh, I don't know. You're just a little red.
Yeah. Well, then there was me. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, welcome back to this fantastic episode of Man versus Marriage. Today, we're excited to have and bring you a guest named Dan Purcell, and he is the innovator of Get Your Marriage On. Dan, welcome back to the program. Tell the people who you are and what you do.
Thanks. I'm happy to be here, Quinn and Jeannie. I'm Dan Purcell. My wife and I are the founders of Get Your Marriage On, and we help couples have great sex.
Yeah, and that is, I really appreciate you coming on the program. And I know we're just going to keep laughing about this. We had this thing rocking and rolling, and then your old buddy, the Q Dog audience, you're familiar with some of my antics. I forgot to hit record, so that's why my face is red. That's why Jeannie's laughing. And Dan, I appreciate the support and for you sticking with us. So I want to make sure that everybody knows that you can email us directly. And that is Quincy at MVSMpodcast.com. Make sure to continue to use, especially if you have any, tips on how to be a better producer of your own show. That would be fantastic. I would really appreciate it. And also make sure that you go to QuincyMoran.com and check out the things that we're doing, all the things, the brands that we're doing to impact culture in a positive way. Make sure you go to QuincyMoran.com and /apparel and check out some of our clothing. And I encourage you to go out there amongst the people, wear the gear, and have enough courage to answer the question, because you are making a difference in your life and your relationship. And there's nothing better than going out and sharing that and making an impact where you are. So make sure that you do that. And without further ado, you got to tease, which is that's great language to use for this particular episode. You got to tease from who Dan is and what he does. But I'd like to celebrate you guys right now and, tell the people about, how long you've been married. I'm going to put a picture up here of your family. Looks like it was a tie, 3-3. But talk to us about your family, about how long you've been doing this, and just a little bit more about Get Your Marriage On.
Yeah, my wife and I have been married 21 years, and we have 6 children. My oldest is 20, and my youngest is 7. And it alternates boy, girl, boy, girl, boy, girl. So we got that nailed down.
Yeah, honey, ours alternates
All girls.
boy, girl.
No, I'm thinking the numbers.
Oh, okay. Well,
Like
I was going to
31.
say ours don't.
No, ours go in numbers.
Yeah, we got a boy, and then we raffled out 7 girls. So
Thank you.
it is boy, girl. That's for us, but it stopped there. So Dan, thank you very much for being on the program once again. And you guys that are longtime listeners of the show, you've heard and seen Dan before, but I'm excited to bring him back because I think this is one of the most impactful areas that you can invest in when it comes to your relationship. And Dan, this time around, I'm going to tell a quick story just to give you additional credibility with my audience and tell them how much I believe in what you're doing. Jeannie and I had been working on our marriage for, I don't know, honey, what was it, like 4 or 5 years? And we would get away on these little date trips, and I had been getting in better shape and, getting healthy. And, we were growing in our life, but not at a point where we had kind of breached or broken that wall, if you will, of complete and absolute trust just because we had some resentment and things going on. So we went to San Diego when we lived out in California, and Jeannie had some things in her mind. And if you wanna tell it, she had some things in her mind um, that I was going to leave her. It was just something that was looming, and for me, I had no thoughts about leaving her. It's nothing that had crossed my mind. And so we were there, and I'm going to tell you, we had one of the most passionate lovemaking sessions we had ever had in our life. And it was at that time we were laying on the bed naked, just holding each other. And I believe something welled up inside of me, and I said some words to her that they were in me. They were a part of me. It's something that I had to say. And it was something that eased all of the concerns that she had. And in that moment, we always refer, even shoot, 10 years later,
Hmm.
we still refer to that San Diego moment because it dynamically changed our relationship and
Mhm.
further solidified that we are each other's people. And then our ability to communicate, our ability to forgive, our ability to grow closer, to support one another, etc. It transformed that day, and it has never been the same since. It has only been better. And so when I look at what you do, those are the moments that you facilitate between husbands and wives. And I
Yes.
honor, yes, I want to honor you and your wife, Emily, for that. And then just have you talk a little bit more about that approach. Definitely want to talk about your app. Definitely want to talk about the challenge coming up. So I'll hand it over to you. I'll throw some pictures up on the screen. I've got an email address. And this is something I'm going to do now. If you're watching this program, if you're not, I'll tell you. If you're watching this program and you say, I'm in trouble, I need help right now, this is where you go to get it. You email support at getyourmarriageon.com. And I'm telling you, pause the program and send the email and put what's in your heart and let it all out, because today your life changes for the better. And that's because you're here with us and you're here with Dan. And I know that what they do is going to help you. So Dan, please take it away.
Thank you. I love that story. And that's the heart of everything I do. It really is about uh, coming closer as a man and a woman, as a husband and a wife, and sharing this secret, this special, I don't have words adequate, but it's a special power, this special moment with each other that just makes everything so much better. I had another person email me about how she and her husband been married 10 years, found my app, and it really gave them the courage to explore things that they've been neglecting when it comes to sex in their marriage. And and this isn't about frequency. This is about quality. Just the quality of their sexual relationship had improved in a short time, like 3 or 4 weeks. And then they had a major family event that caused a lot of stress. And she didn't go into details what it was, but she did say that if it weren't for our closer connection as husband and wife, this event could have really torn us apart. But because of your app, because we've been doing the work of really growing together more sexually, we kind of had this stronger bond that felt unbreakable, and it gave us the strength to work through. It gave us the strength to work through the challenge that was right before us. So that's, I think, the magic and power of what a really good sexual relationship can do for a couple.
Yeah, to me it's the core. And like you say, it's not a frequency issue, it's a connection issue. And I think one kind of drives the other, because once you begin to connect in such a deep and intimate way, um, you want to go back and revisit that. You want to go and connect again. And, honey, we talk about it on the show too. And like some of our sexpectation episodes, there's a difference in just having sex. You need to have a quickie to offload and just to get things done. And then you put that against having a deep, intimate connection. Something changes inside of you each and every time you do that. Any thoughts on that,
Yeah.
honey?
Yeah, I mean, we've gone through, I think our biggest struggle in the beginning was the difference between a want and a need. and developing, when we got married, I got married with the advice that I needed to keep him happy and keep him serviced, or he was going to go elsewhere, which is not the best mental state to be in when you get married.
Right.
But it was
Horrible advice, by the way. Bad
yeah,
marriage advice.
yeah. So for us, I had to break my mindset of servicing him to keep him happy. It made it so that sex was difficult for me. I enjoyed it. We did what we needed to do, but it wasn't the connection wasn't what I was looking for. And over the years, as we kind of got past all of that, and learned that there's a very big difference between needing it and wanting it. If we want it and the other one's not in the mood, there are ways to still have a connection and not be sexual about it. But at the same time, if it's a need, if he's had a really crappy day or he's been beaten up with work or what have you, the need isn't so much just to have sex. The need is he needs me to connect with him on a level that nobody else can. He needs me to have that, just let him be vulnerable and, for lack of a better word, naked and open about whatever's going on, and accept it. And that's kind of the difference, I think, in what we created, as far as and it's not just the sex. I mean, we could lay in the room and just lay in a bed naked and just hold hands and be fine. It's just that open space to be who you are with your person. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah. I think you said it. I think you said it well. And we do things, and then we have challenges in our relationship, and then we bring it to the show because we're very journey driven. We're very experience driven to say, hey, this is how we've screwed it up. And so
Epically.
it helps tremendously, in my opinion, bringing an expert on like yourself, because like Jeannie said, we've gone through the need versus want, and then there were still some challenges as soon as 3-4 years ago, where we did some episodes called Who Decides When We Have Sex. And it was important to me because what we came down to is it a matter of initiation, or is it a matter of access? Because who knows where it's at? So if you yourself say, listener, we're talking to you right now. If you find yourself with some things that you're not comfortable talking to your spouse about, or there's some things in the corner that you keep in the dark that you don't feel like you could express to your spouse, and you have trouble approaching that situation or approaching that conversation because of some misconceptions you have, that's what Dan and his wife do. That is what their program is about. They help you remove those obstacles out of your relationship and learn how to connect. And it can be hard. It can be difficult. Like you might be saying to yourself, oh, that could never be us. Well, let me tell you, typically you do what you see when you're growing up. And Jeannie and I had a big problem doing that. That's what we did, Dan. We basically did what we saw or did what we heard. And so if you want to change your relationship, and Dan, I've said this to Jeannie and to our listeners before, if her and I and our place of intimacy are connected, there can be chaos outside of these walls, and I can face it. I can face all the chaos in the world as long as that connection is met and it's vibrant and it's healthy. There is something that's so game changer about being deeply intimate with your spouse.
Yes, agreed. Can I just share maybe some of the things I've been learning lately?
Yes,
Like, I'm evolving and growing too. So, there's a difference between quantity and quality, and a lot of us tend to focus on quantity when we're not getting enough sex. We complain about our mismatched libidos and how our frequency is different. I want 3 times a week and you want 1 time a month, or whatever. We focus on the frequency. Other times when we struggle in our sexual relationships, it's because I want to try XYZ. I want more novelty, and the other person wants, more of the same, and they get labeled as vanilla. And whether, sometimes that's not said in a kind way. And then you have you're at odds, you have these differences. Now, having differences in and of themselves is not a bad thing. In fact, if you want a strong marriage, you want to be partnered with someone that has strengths in areas where you have your weaknesses. You want
That's right.
differences. And so building a good sexual partnership is less about letting your differences be at odds with each other, but more about how do we build a collaborative marriage together. So being in a collaborative area is not easy. So I have 4 C's that I think will help you move to more collaboration. It's commitment, capability or capacity, courage, and confidence. And I get these 4 C's from a man named Dan Sullivan. And anyway, the biggest thing often holding us back to a better sexual relationship is a lack of commitment to the idea. For example, let's say you wanted sex 3 times a week and your spouse only wanted it 1 time a month. As long as you can hold on to the idea that I am superior to my spouse because I want it more often, like obviously in my head, 3 is better than, less than, once a month. Like 3 times a week is obviously more of a good thing, is better. As long as you're holding on to that idea and your marriage breaks equality. Now there's a little bit of a hierarchy where I'm a little bit better than you, or on the flip side, I'm not as good as you. I'll never be good enough for you. I'll never catch up to your level. That's going like the one down. Either direction. Once you break hierarchy, once you create a hierarchy where one is a little better than the other, it will never yield a passionate marriage. You have to be equals, side by side, in order for that to happen. And I like the metaphor. The metaphor for me is in Genesis when Adam creates Eve out of his rib, from his side, a rib. That to me paints the picture of the ideal model of marriage is a man and woman side by side as equals. They're working together. They're laboring together. So oftentimes it requires a commitment to letting go of things that you hold so dear that are actually interfering with your ability to be more collaborative. So that's what the first C in commitment is. The second is capacity. Oftentimes we're not having greater sex because frankly we don't have the capacity for greater sex. This isn't so different as like a 5-year-old isn't reading at a higher level of reading because they haven't developed the capacity to read at maybe a 5th grade or 6th grade level yet. So you work on it. Same with our sexuality. We need to develop our capacity to be more sexual. And there's many aspects to that. Sometimes it's a capacity of being more intimate. Intimacy is scary and it's not for wimps, as you both know.
That is right. You are right, brother.
Absolutely. Intimacy is being naked emotionally, physically, spiritually, mentally. It's letting someone in to deep within you, including the parts that you may not be very proud about sharing. It's also about a willingness to know another person, including the parts that aren't very validating all the time. So there's a lot of times we're not intimate yet. We're not having a great sexual relationship because we haven't developed the capacity to handle knowing something about our spouse that we don't want to know. There's a couple I'm coaching where there's been a faith transition of one of the one of the people in the marriage, and it's very distressing to the other. And one of the biggest frustrations that the one with the faith transition says is, my spouse just won't listen to why I've made the transition I have. It's that my spouse is afraid to know what's in my head. And so that spouse keeps distance from it. So we often do that, maybe not with a faith transition, but yes, I know my spouse might be really into this thing, but I am not willing to venture there and go there because we don't have the capacity yet. We haven't stepped into that. So how do you grow more capacity? How do you be more capacity for intimacy, for love? And it requires an enormous amount of courage. So we talked about commitment. We need to commit first. And it's about requiring a commitment to something higher and better. I love how
Yeah.
you mentioned that you wrote a letter from your future self. This is who I want to be a year from now, or something like that, right?
Yes,
For
sir.
a year from now, you're going to read that. That's that idea of uh, I'm committing to a higher version of me, and that committing to that requires an enormous amount of courage. And it's courage because courage never feels good.
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
Fair.
Think of anything courageous you've ever done. It never felt good in the moment,
That's
but it
right.
was the right thing to do. So for example, in your marriage, like you're committing to being a better version of yourself might include arguing with your spouse less, and an opportunity for an argument comes up or to be critical, and you bite your tongue. And your tongue might be bleeding because you're biting your tongue. But it's
That's right.
that courage. Like it does not feel good. I want to just flip off. But your higher self or your better version of yourself isn't going to give into that right now. So that's what courage is. And as you start doing those things, your confidence will increase. So if you want more sexual confidence, more intimate confidence, it's by repeatedly following the process, doing those things confidence comes from doing. And by taking action, you're going to grow in that. Be more
Very
confident.
true. Very true. And I think, closely related to that confidence piece is competency. And you kind of lay out the formula there for how to gain each of these in order to improve your relationship. And I would tend to believe it's not just something you read from another very powerful Dan, but it's something you put into practice in your life, right?
Mhm. Yeah, absolutely. All aspects.
Yeah, and in my professional life, my 9 to 5, um, it has said within our company that it's the most difficult group to work in because of what you're out and you're presenting. There's a lot of value, but people have they say this, well, we've always done it this way. So now you're trying to break habits that people have done for 30 years, for 40 years, for a lifetime of an organization. And we as human beings are no different. We seek, comfort. We don't want to venture into that courage because it is uncomfortable. It promotes discomfort. And so if you, just like Dan's talking about, if you are listening to this program and you want what we are talking about, he's laying it out. And we're not speaking from the text of a book. We're speaking from a place of experience. So we're ahead of you on the path in this particular area. And we are calling back to you and saying, this is what it looks like up here. So have the courage to commit, have the courage to open your mind and challenge yourself on what you are capable of. That is where your capacity is. And then the more you do something, the more confidence you will have. And there is something very powerful about confidence. And I believe my wife can tell a difference when I am walking, acting, and like articulating myself. My body language has confidence in it. And so, that's something. I think these 4 C's are fantastic, a fantastic takeaway from that particular part of the episode. So I appreciate you sharing that. Any thoughts, honey?
No, but this is where I thrive. We're going to go Rita on this one and ask questions. So, knowing that these are the 4 C's and this is the formula that you're currently working through and adding to your life. We have listeners who one spouse wants to experiment and it is a very different idea of what their spouse would be interested in. I mean, they're very far apart in what is acceptable or willing to experiment with. How do you approach that with these 4 C's? How do we help them bridge that gap when they are so far apart? How do you help them have that communication?
Yeah. Funny enough, for a time of all my coaching clients, 3/4 of them were in a situation like that, specifically where he wanted oral sex and she didn't. So we can use that as an example if you want.
Absolutely. Yeah. That's good.
But so first of all, just to be really clear, there's nothing wrong with wanting different sexual acts, different behaviors, novelty seeking. These are all natural and good. Like, come on, who wants to eat the same breakfast food, or wear the same clothes every day, or drive the same car for the rest of their life? We want variety. We like new things. And so it's natural to want new things in your sexual relationship too. So there's nothing wrong with that. This I tend to see happens a lot with people who are more successful in life when they're used to getting what they want. These are people that know how to set a goal, know how to work for it and achieve things. They have a harder time in their sexual relationships because this formula of how to like set a goal and work for something works in all other areas of my life, but it doesn't work in my sexual relationship. Because they have this goal. I'm gonna get this. I'm gonna get more blowjobs, or I'm gonna get whatever it is. That's kind of what they really want. They see it as just more of a good thing, and their spouse, in this case the wife, doesn't see it that way. They don't share that same vision, like what Jeannie's talking about. So let me tell you the wrong way to approach it, which I think is the way most of us do. Remember, Einstein said, he has this great quote, "We can't solve problems at the same level of thinking when the problem was created." So at this level of thinking that the problem is created, you can't solve it there. You have to raise your intelligence to be at a higher level in order to solve the problem that was created. So what I'm going to say is there's no formula. There isn't like a step-by-step ABC. But I'll tell you what doesn't work, and that is pressuring, that is demanding, that is pouting, withholding, more A's, avoiding, accommodating, acting out, like being a bully about it. Like, none of those things are going to work because they're all antithetical to building a great sexual relationship. The thing about sex, and you probably already know this, but the root word for the word erotic is Greek for eros. And eros literally means desire. Eros is this energy that Plato called is the life force. It's what gets you out of bed. It's what you pursue. It's about the thing that puts the pep in your step and the smile on your face. Yes. Eros energy cannot be demanded. There's something about eros, you can't manufacture it, you can't produce it. So what you're trying to do is, in this situation where you want oral sex and your spouse doesn't, you're trying to manufacture a wife or a situation where she will want it and want it more. And just the whole setup gets you deeper into the problem that you're currently at, because it's antithetical to what you'll really want. Now, she might give in, she might accommodate, but it's not going to have the passion ever that you want because you can't produce it. This can't be produced. Now, like your San Diego experience that you talked about, I'm willing to bet that it was completely organic. You didn't go into that thinking, we are tonight going to have the best sex ever, and we're going to like force ourselves into that. You can't. Sex doesn't work that way.
Right.
Mm-mm.
Right.
It unfolds. It's organic. It's always organic. So so here's the higher way of thinking about it. It's not a quantitative shift. It's a qualitative shift in way of thinking. It's about quality of intimacy. If you want to set up the conditions that one day your spouse will choose the same sexual acts you want to, it's not going to be from a place of demand. It's going to be a place from inviting, where they have the absolute full choice, yes or no, to step into that or not, and you being completely okay with whatever the outcome is. It's about surrendering an outcome, because frankly, the more you try to control it, the more it's going to run away from you.
Yeah, I agree, and like I think you articulated the point very well. The more pressure, the more pouting, the more punishment that you involve trying to get what it is you want, the farther away from the target you get. And
Hmm.
to me, in the way that my mind is wired, there is nothing more gratifying than my wife wanting me sexually. Like as far as
Of
our
course.
relationship goes,
Hmm.
and Jeannie and I have we she talks about need versus want, and I talk about want versus need, because if we're saying the same thing, we're just interchanging words. And so we've been able to bridge that gap and to use some strategies to help us connect there. And so I just invite you, the listener, again, if there is something that you are struggling with, I highly recommend you email Dan at Get Your Marriage On, because this is what our program is about helping you um, make a bigger impact, have a greater connection in your life. So I encourage you to go there. And the email that I have pulled up is support@getyourmarriageon.com. That's right from your website. And I figured that would be the best. Is that the best email to connect with you?
Yeah, it's fantastic. Thank you.
Okay, that's great. And if for the couples that Jeannie's mentioning, you know who you are. We're not going to out you on the program, but I encourage you as well. I trust Dan and what he does. I trust him because I know him. We've been interacting for a minimum of 5 years. I'm happy to make our program a part of what you do, which we'll talk about this intimacy challenge that's coming up. I do want to show the folks that are watching the program, and if you're just listening on audio only, I encourage you to go and check it out. On our YouTube page. I want to show a little bit about your Intimately Us app. You talked about being able to develop that, so I'm going to throw a quick picture and then a screenshot up of what that looks like. So when you're in the Apple Store, I was just about to say something very derogatory towards Android, but I realized that Dan went to an Android phone, so I won't do it for this particular show. But this is what you're going to be looking for. If I remember right, at one point you had an iPhone. But this is the app you're going to be looking for, and I just want to give you a peek inside for where it looks. It's wonderfully done, but there you'll find in there, you'll find opportunities or ways to help you break the ice. So, Dan, if you don't mind, just talk to us a little bit about your app, what went into that, and then we will talk also about your 14-day challenge coming up.
Great. The app is designed for married couples that want to have more fun in the bedroom. You can look at this like, hey, I want to just make date night more fun, or you want more creative ideas. Oftentimes, just a little spark of inspiration of like something else to try in the bedroom is the catalyst for deeper closeness and intimacy.
Mm-hmm.
I also believe that the app is built on the premise that building a great intimate sexual relationship isn't done on like the level of occasional, once in a while, grandiose, big gestures. It's done by little small habits done consistently over time. So when you first open the app on the very home screen, you'll every day be presented with an intimacy challenge. And intimacy challenges usually are small things that take 5 minutes or less to do, and you can mark it off, and you can build up a streak. And we have an intimacy score where we also track date nights and other things that you can track to kind of build up a score. So it's a way for you to kind of be more intimately minded, partner minded. We also have some really spicy bits in the app that I think are really fun. We have bedroom games. This is where you can go in, you and your spouse, games to play in the bedroom. And, imagine kids are in bed, the door is locked, and you've tossed each other's clothes to the floor, and now you're ready to play. And the games will walk you through different scenarios, different things. They start mild and they get spicier as they progress. We also have like our sex positions are all they're all stick figure drawings, so they're very married PG, so to speak.
I dig it.
Yeah, you get an idea, but without being very. Yeah, there it is on the screen. Yeah, we have these things. It has tons of other things in there. There's about 100 different things you can do inside the app, all about building intimacy. Another popular feature is our sexploration list. This is where he has a list. There are questionnaires. He fills out a questionnaire. She fills out a questionnaire about sexual attitudes, and it'll tell you where you match up and where you don't match up. So that's kind of a fun thing that couples can do to explore. And we're coming out with a lot more features this year that I'm super excited about too.
Yeah, and I'll tell you, it's just brilliant that you have taken your journey and you provide your experience for people, so that they don't make the same mistakes maybe you were, or they don't continue to live with these silent expectations that tend to build resentment up. Because if your needs are going unmet, try as you may, you are actively building resentment towards your spouse, and that's going to create gaps in your relationship. So kudos to you guys for doing this and for putting it out. And it's like you say, it's a taboo topic when it really, really, really should not be. It should be something that you get trade secrets. And like I say, it's not a fish story. You're not trying to talk about, X, Y, or Z, but really just trying to open people up to say, you can have one of the greatest connections on planet Earth intimately with your spouse. And then the prayer is, and really actively in my mind, is that your family, your kids, the people you interact with, they will start to do what they see as a reflection of you, and they'll come to you and say, it's like Christianity. People come to you and say, hey, there's something different about you. Will you please tell me what it is? Share with me what you have that I don't have. And then that's going to make an impact to those around you. But the biggest piece is that it's going to dynamically change your life. So we've given you a lot to think about here. We've given you the opportunity. The email is going to be there. I'll put it in the show notes. One thing I definitely want us to talk about is this challenge that's coming up starting February the 1st. So talk to us about that, Brother Dan.
Yes. All right. Valentine's Day this year is on Friday, February 14th. So leading up to Friday the 14th, starting on February 1st, we're putting on a special challenge. And how it works is you download the Intimately Us app. It's available on Android and iPhone. And you and your spouse sync your accounts, and then you complete small and very simple intimacy challenges. And the more that you complete, the more points you gain. And then all those points accumulate, and it goes into a drawing for prizes. And this year, our grand prize is airfare for two to anywhere in the country to a lucky couple.
I love it.
So that's a pretty significant prize. We have a lot of other fantastic prizes: lingerie, sex toys, books, programs, you name it. We've got a lot of wonderful things that we're giving away. So you'll want to download the app and get a head start by getting synced up and getting familiar with the app. And there's all that. Once you download it, it has all the instructions, what will happen for you to really get underway to start earning points to win prizes. It's a challenge.
Yes.
It'd be great for people to go in and do the his and her list now, because as you're doing the challenge, that might help you bring some of those things back, kind of to the surface. It might give you an opening to discuss them, because it's a challenge. It's a game. It's not, I think, so much of this stuff runs through my head, because we have a lot of couples right now that this is huge in what they're dealing with. And I'm just looking at the his and her list and how that would open the communication. But when you throw in the challenge, I mean, who wouldn't want to earn 2 tickets to go on a getaway? And at the same time, we're kind of experimenting with these things that we're struggling with. And it's Quincy and I have done this before. We went through it. And I mean, some of them are not silly, but they make you feel awkward, because it's like, this is such a simple thing. Why didn't we think of this before? But it helps to break the ice, and it brings it more to a conversation level. And you don't feel like, you're I wasn't uncomfortable with it. We laughed a lot at some of the stuff, just because it was simple, and we're going, why didn't we think of this? Like, this is so easy. Why didn't we think of this?
Yeah, and I'll tell you this. I think it's important for you, the listener, no matter when you are listening to this program, let's say it's March or June or July or whatever, go download the app. One thing that I believe in deeply, no pun intended. That's my first sex joke of the day. I think. One thing I believe in deeply is that things need to be practical. If they're practical, it makes you feel like you can accomplish it. So it's got to be practical, and it has to make an impact. And I'm not just showering you with all these kind words because you're on the program. I just believe in the mission, in the calling, in such a way, and I know the impact that it's had on my life. And so I encourage you guys. You'll be able to win if you get in and you are selected as one of the winners, or you win. You will see that Man versus Marriage is proud to sponsor this every time it comes around. Just very happy to do it, and that's a wise man once taught me that people don't buy what they need, they buy what they want. And so my want is for you guys to grow. And that man is on this program, by the way. It's probably obvious to the audience, but I put my money where my mouth is. I don't just say I believe in this. I sow an investment into it because I believe it's one of the things, if not the thing, that will absolutely revolutionize your relationship. And I say that with all the confidence because it did for Jeannie and I. So I'm very happy to have you on and for us to get this episode on, all pun intended there, right before the challenge begins. So, as we begin to close this out, what is anything else that you want to share? Anything that's on your heart? You mentioned, and listeners, check this out. He heard him mention that he does coaching. I think I would love for you to talk about these retreats that you do, and maybe give an idea of what those are, maybe a short testimonial. And then what else do they need to know about you and your program so that they can get started immediately today?
Great. All right. So retreats. I do two types of retreats. One is in person and the other are virtual. The in-person retreats are ideal for couples who are in an otherwise happy marriage but wish things were better in the intimacy department. And my retreats are 4 days, 4 nights, beautiful, luxurious accommodations. We rent out an entire resort, and we also have a lot of fun. This isn't boring sitting in a hotel conference room type of a conference. This is a retreat. It's going to be fun. We bring in a lot of people. We have a chef on site to cook all of the meals. We go ATVing in the desert or canyoneering because I live in a beautiful area where we can accommodate a lot of those things. So there's a little bit of an adventure component. There's a lot of laughter, a lot of fun, but most of all, it's very transformative. It's designed that in 4 days, we take you from where you are to your next level by helping you see your clear path, kind of like what we talked about today with the 4 C's. It's all about that. Then I do online virtual retreats. And our next one is February 14th. We're going to do it on Valentine's Day. Nice. And how this works is it's different than our in-person retreats. Our online retreats I teach a sexual practice for you and your spouse to do that's probably different than what you usually do. And it starts Friday night, and then we have session 2 Saturday morning, and we finish with a bang on Saturday night. So you get to meet with me 3 times. If you miss one, we have the recordings for you to see. But so the ideal is like you get a hotel for 2 nights, send the kids to grandma's or whatever. So you have a very romantic Valentine's Day, and then you tune in and we'll walk you through what to do that night. And each session builds on the next. So that one's more geared towards couples that kind of want some more sexual adventure, maybe switch things up in the bedroom, and we walk you through a special practice that you probably don't do, but it's going to make a huge impact on your deeper connection. So that's the virtual retreats.
That's awesome, man. And I look forward at some point to Jeannie and I being able to carve the time out in our schedule. And those years of life are coming for us, which is going to be really nice. But I just strongly encourage you guys to go and check out getyourmarriageon.com and look at what they offer. If any of this is of interest to you, you will find the help you are looking for there. I am very confident in that. So the last thing I think we'll talk about is what do you have coming? You have your intimacy challenge, you have your retreat, which is in March, correct?
My in-person retreat is in March. My virtual retreat is February 14th.
February 14th. Okay, and anything else that we can talk to our group about? Why should somebody email you right now? And that's I think
Yes.
that's we'll finish it up, and I'm gonna throw the email address up there. But why should someone email you today?
So Get Your Marriage On supports this spectrum. We have a group of married couples that have a good sexual relationship already, and they just want to take it to their next level. This is where our apps, our virtual retreat, our games, all those things, our date ideas, all those things contribute and help that area. We also have a group of couples where things aren't great. There's a lot of distress about the sexual relationship and they want things to improve. This is where my coaching program is very effective. This is where our in-person retreat is really, really good. I also offer a few times a year a small group coaching program, and it's limited to just 6 to 10 men or 6 to 10 women, and it's men's only and women's only. And you meet for 12 weeks. And this is great if you're in a marriage where you're like, I'm kind of flying solo here. I really wish my spouse was on board with better communication or better intimacy, whatever. But I just want to get help for me. I want to be a better version of me and maybe up level by what's going on there. So I offer a program specifically for them. The next cohort starts as of this recording next week, and it's full. So you can get on my waiting list on my website, getyourmarriageon.com, and our next cohorts will start probably in April or May.
Excellent. Well, I'm really glad that I just had a moment of clarity there and say, well, what is coming next? Because I really, really, really want for people to reach out to you. And I'm sure we have the couples that we're helping, in our mind, Jeannie and I are just having little light bulbs go off about how can we direct so and so here, or I'm thinking about this particular person that we're trying to coach through some of these challenges, and I can encourage them to come here as well. So that's something that we're going to do. And so, Dan, I want to thank you so much for being a part of the program today. I'm excited for your Intimately Us challenge that's coming. I'm really excited for the next February the 14th, you have a virtual retreat. I am really thankful that you are out making a difference in people's lives and relationships. So God bless you guys for that. Welcome on the program anytime. Can't wait to have you back. And any final words before we run this thing out?
Yes, my final word is Harvard has done the longest longitudinal study ever, and it's to find out what contributes to a person's happiness. And a longitudinal study is where you track people across several years. In this case, several lifespans. Now it's into their children and grandchildren. And what they have found, this it's not wealth, it's not job promotions, it's not what car you drive, it's not what kind of house you live in. The number one factor, more than any other factor that contributes to someone's life, is the quality of their intimate relationship. So,
yes,
if you want to be happy, you'll find more happiness in your intimate relationship. So that's where you'll get your biggest return on your investment, by investing in your marriage more than any other part of your life. So invest in your marriage. Make your marriage the best it can be by you becoming the very best version of you can be.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you very much. I think that's a great place to end it. So Dan, thank you for being on the program. Jeannie Moran, any final words?
No, I think we're good.
I think we're good too. I agree. Oh, you're talking about the show. Okay. I can deal with it.
Always.
All right. Well, that is it for this particular episode of Man versus Marriage. Thank you so much for being here. We gave you a power-packed episode today. Thank God I forgot to record the first one, because I really think this episode is better than the one that we had previously. Not saying it wasn't great, but I just felt like it had the right energy. So God, thanks for thumping me on the head and making me realize that the the record button wasn't hit. Make sure to check us out, quincymoran.com. That's where all the brands are happening. if you want to go out and you want to make a difference, and you want to spark somebody's curiosity, go check out quincymoran.com/apparel. We got the signature Man versus Marriage, the podcast. We got I Was Not Born Ready, I Was Built Ready. We got the Family Famous and the Hustle Mania. So make sure you get out there and go into society with courage. And once again, if you want to know how to get in touch with Dan and you need help now, go email support@getyourmarriageon.com. And I trust him. You will learn to trust him, and he's going to give you all the practical insight that you need or desire in order to make your intimate connection all it can be. So with that, thanks for listening. Quincy at MVSMpodcast.com. We are